Welcome to the fifth and the final week of the Scaffolding Learning course. The last topic of this course is on emotional scaffolding. I'll get to that later in the video, but let me share with you the work that your classmates have completed last week on language scaffolding. This assignment comes from our friend Sherry from Canada. Sherry's scaffold is for a math one, and she uses 3 scaffolds together: language, sensory, and interactive scaffolding. I love the way she explained the steps of what she did to help her student Ty. She had a math question here like 2 times 2, and then she helped him create a visual to understand it. She provided a sentence stem, and then he added the details. How very effective the strategy was, Sherry. Did you create this on an iPad with the student? What a great use of technology. This example comes from Christine. To help students understand the meaning of vocabulary words, she recorded a voice recording of the text with images that she drew. This strategy also helps students produce comprehensible output when they're ready to innovate on their stories. These are her hand drawings, and I'm going to show you her recording of it.
After a while, the traveler took out his rusty, trusty spoon so he could taste it.
You have a crusty, matted beard, but what does the soup taste like?
Remarked the old hen wife. Wow, this soup is as beautiful as your smile, but it will need some herbs or vegetables, said the sneaky traveler, rubbing his hands.
Songs are so helpful to students, and your voiceover is so calming and clear that students will definitely understand, and they can hear the inflection in your voice as well. This strategy comes from Beth Davis. She shares how she uses language frames and sentence frames to help kids in their oral and written language. This poster is an accountable talk poster. She puts it up for her kids, and they use it during discussions, such as, "I would like to add." She also has sentence frames such as, "On page blank it says," which helps kids become tech-centered. She also used this strategy that we shared last week to help kids understand the parts of speech in a way that's content connected and without worksheets. Beth shared that this strategy is both content, teacher, and student-friendly. Way to go, Beth. Thank you for sharing. Sherry compared linguistic scaffolding to a toolbox, and similarly, Christine compared it to a buffet. Though these metaphors might seem very different, they are quite connected because even though there's a flood of strategies, we have to be intentional about which tool we use and which food we put on our plates, just like scaffolding. Patricia likens linguistic scaffolding to a fortune teller because there are so many different strategies, yet they can all work. It just depends on selecting the one we want to use. Thank you for this unique idea, Patricia.
I would have to say that linguistic scaffolding is my favorite kind of scaffolding because I think that there's so many innovative ways to scaffold for kids. I personally use a lot of videos. Brain Pop Junior is one of my favorite ways to introduce a topic, and the kids are really engaged, and it's really language friendly for early English learners. This week, though, I chose to really focus on the writing component with the scaffold of a graphic organizer and coming up with verbs, nouns, adjectives, etc. to come up with really juicy sentences for the kids to use in their writing. So as I said in my metaphor, I really believe that these kinds of scaffolds are like a staircase or an escalator or a ramp. Ultimately, the kids all are going to go to the same place, but it's going to look a little bit different how they get there with the supports that we put in place.
Our group coaching session is always such a blast. We still have just one more left in this week, so make sure to post your questions on Google Classroom or DM me on Twitter. This week we were joined by Julie, Silpa, Diana, and Michael. We talked about the traveling cart teacher, teaching with stations, who to support during in-class support time, and long-term English learners. There's no highlight video, but there are written notes to summarize the main points. How students feel at school is as important as what they learn at school. That's why this final week of the course ends with strategies that will help you create a welcoming, safe learning environment for ELs. Because if they're stressed, scared, or not feeling valued, you can bet that they are not going to be achieving at their highest potential. I think it is as important, if not the most important scaffold for our most vulnerable students. Like always, I have created an animated video to describe emotional scaffolding. Let's watch it. Emotional scaffolding is using strategies that reduce students' school-related stress so that they can focus on learning. Please don't think that having low academic or behavioral expectations equals emotional scaffolding. If we have the highest expectations, then we also need to create the safest environment for ELs to take risk. This is because, like Hammond said, when the amygdala sounds its alarm with cortisol, all other cognitive functions such as learning, problem solving, or creative thinking stop. Emotional scaffolding reduces stress by helping teachers develop positive relationships with students, valuing students' cultures and experiences, and affirming students' identity as capable students. I will use Larry Filazzo's framework to share strategies that I have used and have seen other teachers use to create a welcoming environment that affirms the positive attributes that our ELs possess. There are 4 qualities that motivate students to learn: competence, autonomy, relatedness, and relevance. Competence refers to strategies that affirm that ELs are capable of learning the same grade level content as other students. Autonomy refers to strategies that incorporate student choice. We can empower students to identify a topic that they want to learn, select how they want to learn it, or decide on the final product. Relatedness refers to strategies that gain their respect. This means adopting positive management strategies, practicing intentional grouping, and teaching students how to interact collaboratively. And finally, relevance refers to strategies that connect learning to an EL's experience or interest. We can either connect the learning to something outside of school or allow students to connect their interests to the content. Praising students. I'm going to give you 2 examples of praise, and I would like you to notice the differences between them. 1, Annie, you're so smart. 2, Annie, the way you use mind mapping really helped you understand the video. What did you notice? The first praise recognizes Annie, while the second recognizes her use of the strategy. According to Carol Dweck, praise that recognizes how students solve a problem or use a strategy promotes more student agency. When ELs hear praise like that, they're more likely to think about using strategies instead of claiming that they're not smart. Here are several ways you can praise students in a way that focuses on their use of strategies. I've included these printable note cards for you to praise students in a way that promotes confidence. I would like to show you a video of 2 ELs in my class. They like to say that my class is easy, so I asked them to explain what makes my class so easy. Let's hear their responses.
What can other teachers do to help you understand the content?
Nothing. I think we just learn by yourself.
The other day you said this class is easier
Yeah.
because
Like
Easy.
Because,
To understand.
There is like more easy work. Like some class using hard work. Like yeah, like that. Like that, and I'm so confused. But if I translate, I know this thing means like.
so you're
Then
saying
you can use like more easy word, but some teachers using more hard word.
so you're saying I use words that you can understand.
Yeah, more easy word.
Yeah, if we understand, you will translate.
Yeah, you can translate. That'll help.
Notice how they said it was easy to understand my instructions compared to other classes. I shared this video with you not to brag about my teaching, but to show you that ELs feel a sense of ease when we establish comprehensible input. Maybe when they say easy, really is what they meant is comprehensible. When I collaborate with content teachers, I encourage them to use strategies that make their instructions more comprehensible. My 4 top recommendations when presenting content are: 1. When reading a text to teach content, think of it as a team sport. Allow students to work together to construct meaning from the text. As they read, they can Google Translate unfamiliar words and annotate the text to process the ideas. If you're watching a YouTube video, turn on the auto translate function so the students can access the same content with the same resource. When presenting content, use lots of visuals, diagrams, graphs, and infographics to communicate the information. You can even have students produce visual sketch notes as they listen to the content. Or, when presenting content, build in moments for students to pause and collaboratively synthesize information. In this week's Google Classroom, I will post an article I wrote about these strategies for you to read further. I know what you're thinking. Tan, you've already shared these strategies. Why are we recapping them here? When we make content comprehensible, students feel confident, which leads them to feel more competent about their abilities. Autonomy is another way we make ELs feel welcome to school. Students feel trusted, respected, and empowered when we allow them some choice in their learning. The extent to which we let students choose is based on their readiness. But the more choices we let students decide, the happier they will feel about being in your class. We can do small things such as offering flexible seating options. My students are free to work on the floor, at the tables, or stand during extended work time. I allow students to listen to their music while working as long as it doesn't distract them or others, and if they don't constantly search for music. Sometimes I'll just ask them to have one headphone in at a time so that they can still listen to me if I call for their attention. But there are more systematic things we can do to honor student choice. This includes giving students a choice in the topic to investigate, the way they want to work, and the product to show their learning. This may be familiar to you because it's Carol Tomlinson's model for differentiation. Let's take an 8th grade history class, for example. The teacher spent a few days presenting some basic information about the Italian Renaissance. To assess their learning, the teacher had students individually select a person, an invention, an object, or belief associated with the Renaissance. Students were to turn the class into a museum, and each student would contribute to the museum. The teacher allowed the students to decide on the process of the research. They could choose from articles, books, interviews with an expert, or videos. They could take notes digitally or by hand. Finally, she allows students to select the final product of the exhibit. Some chose to create a physical display, while others created a recorded presentation with voiceover.
Lorenzo de' Medici family. The Medici family had their own business. Their own business was bank. One of their family members was named Lorenzo. He learned how to spend money, and he spent his money on the important things.
When we allow autonomy of learning, we communicate that we trust in students' abilities and we believe in them. Relatedness. Relatedness means interacting with students in a way that maintains a positive relationship. In each of our schools, we have teachers who are beloved by their students, by all of their students. In my former school, one of those teachers is the Lao language teacher, Mr. Bunler. We have some strong, dominant, rebellious boys. However, when they step foot into Mr. Bunlet's room, they transform into polite and respectful young adults. I asked Mr. Bunlet what his approach is when all other approaches seem to not reach these entitled boys. He said that force produces resistance and distance, but polite conversations are rewarded with respect and trust. I asked students that have been with him the longest about his practice, and they've confirmed that they respect him because he treats them like young adults who are worthy of respect. They say that he doesn't take advantage of his authority as a teacher to make them behave. What conversations do you need to have with ELs? I'd like to share with you a few videos. One type of conversation you should have with them is how the skills they are learning will help them in the future. Let's watch this video.
You just learned this from watching a video.
Yeah.
When you watch videos in the future, what are some strategies you can use to help you?
I'll take notes, draw a circle in the middle, and write what are we talking about. So and then when we think it's an important part to note down, so we're gonna stop the video and drag it and note down and draw a circle.
What else did we write on there to help you?
Pictures and yeah.
When we were watching the video,
Yeah.
how often did I stop the video?
Very often,
Why did we do that?
because to let us take notes and to learn about actually remember, or if you don't remember, you can flip out the book to remember why doesn't the move order.
So in the future, when you have a video in 6th grade or in high school, middle school,
Yeah.
when a teacher gives you a video, what should you do?
Look at the video. We will watch it, and if you see a very important part or kind of important, you have to if it's in our assignment or something, you will press stop the video and take note.
And when you stop the video and you don't understand, what should we do?
Huh?
If we stop the video and you still don't understand, what should we do?
You'll go back. We're gonna when we stop in this place, and then we have to go back some seconds to remember what are we saying, or we could open caps lock so we could remember, so we could know the word.
You mean closed captions, you can see the words in the bottom.
Another conversation you want to have with them is how their behavior is affecting their learning experience and the learning experience of others.
Why didn't you break?
Because I want to practice my job skills.
Oh,
In there.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Now, what do you notice now that you didn't eat break?
Hungry.
What happens with it? What happens to your school?
School. Hungry. Cannot focus. That's right.
So, what can you do in the future if you want?
So eat a lot of breakfast.
That's a good idea.
Another important conversation you want to have with them is what things are they doing that makes you proud?
How do you feel now that you've finished such a big book? You didn't give up, even though it took 3 months. You're just surprised. You're just surprised that you can read? You're surprised that you could read the whole book, even though it took you a long time to read. I'm not only surprised, but I'm very proud. When I first saw that after the first 20 pages, I was like, oh, okay, he's gonna really read. I'm like, all right, as long as you want to read it, you can. And you did. 3 months. So that means to me that you can read. Yeah, it took 3 months. That you can read, that you didn't give up, Even though it's a really difficult book and even though English is not your first language. Because normally you read Korean books that are like this. This is really tough. So I'm very proud of you. Do you feel proud of yourself? Why are you proud of yourself?
Doing this. Never was first or second times that
It was the first or second time you read a big book like this, without lots of pictures, lots of difficult words.
In truth, these are the topics that we want to have with all learners. But it's particularly important to have them with English learners to let them know that we care about them and we want them to have a positive experience. Relatedness also means working with people we are comfortable with. For ELs, this often means that they are empowered to work with others in their home language. I use this strategy mainly when we are processing new content. After a brief introduction, we dive into a text or a video to learn more about the topic. That's when I have students move into their same language groupings to collaboratively construct meaning of the topic.
มาเขียนแล้วเดี๋ยวนะครับว่าเบิ่งก็คือมาเขียนแบบแล้วก็นำมาหาเบิ่งว่าตัวใดคือกันก็คือมาเขียนแบบแล้วก็นำมาหาเบิ่งว่าตัวใดคือกันแล้วก็ที่อันนี้ละหรือหายแล้วเอาว่าตัวใดคือกันหรือตั้ง
Not you.
No, we're doing the same thing.
I know, but I said I'm not gonna no. ว่าเห็นแบบว่าแยก difference แบบ same ออกจากกันต้องจะเขียนแบบหมดเลยนะบอกว่าเขาจะเป็นซี่แล้วก็มาเห็น summary ทีหลัง
Notice how engaged they are and notice the social skills they have as they're talking. I like to pose a question to you. When initially learning about a topic, why does it have to be in a specific language? It usually doesn't. Allowing students to use their home language also connects to competence. They are the most competent in their home language, so we invite them to use it as a tool for learning content. In doing so, they feel like a more confident and competent learner. Intentional groupings. Here is an academic language continuum. The students at this end are the students who have significant mastery of academic language. At the other end of the continuum are students who are just using social language exclusively. This continuum reflects the degree of mastery of using academic language. In this continuum, ELs can be anywhere along the continuum, and non-ELs can also be anywhere along the continuum. I sometimes see teachers place the 10 student with the 1 student. They do this because the 10 can tutor the 1. However, the language gap is so significant that for the 10, she might resent the grouping because she is feeling unchallenged. For the 1, he might feel inferior because his skill set is so drastically different than the partner. So how do we group students then? I recommend that we group students based on their academic language proficiency. For my class, this means grouping 10 and 9 together, 8, 7, 6 together, 5, 4, 3 together, and you guessed it, 2 and 1 form their own group. They will be communicating at the highest level of their ability and receiving communication that is close to their own. This grouping also allows ELs to be mixed with students who are not ELs, and vice versa. Relevance means doing work that will help students achieve their goals or that will interest them. The curriculum often limits students' ability to explore their personal interests, but there are still ways to make learning relevant even if it's not connected to a personal interest. I would like to share 3 strategies that might make curriculum more relevant to kids. 1, audience. 2, connected to students' experiences. And 3, connecting to a concept. One way to make learning relevant is providing an authentic audience for students. Often the audience for students is their teachers. Each year at my school, we have a fundraising event called the Fun Fair. Children in our community purchase tickets to play games at the Fun Fair. The carnival games are created by the 8th graders in school. After the 8th graders conducted some research into the carnival games, they constructed prototypes out of cardboard and invited the 4th graders to test out the games. The visit would help the 8th graders decide what modifications to make. As the weeks progressed towards the end of the fun fair, students worked feverishly and with a focus on completing their carnival games. Because they had a specific audience for their work, they never needed to be reminded of, hey, focus. A second strategy is connecting to students' personal experiences. We can connect the curriculum to students' experiences, which will engage them more because they already have a context or some conceptual understanding. For example, let's say that students are learning about nutrition. A way to connect students is to design a project that has them investigate the nutritional value of foods from their culture. In physical education, for example, the 8th graders explored the concept of dance. The way one teacher connected to students' experiences was having students explore the elements of dance in their own culture. They identified the specific moves that were highly distinguishable in their culture. Then they worked with a classmate from another culture to create their own dance to share as a final project. The last strategy is connecting to a concept. If students can't form a connection between the curriculum and their personal experiences or their cultural experiences, we can always form a connection to the concept itself. Returning to the Renaissance unit, the concepts were adapt, adopt, and resist. Instead of the museum exhibit assessment, the teacher could have asked the students to find examples in real life that showed ideas that have been adapted, adopted, or resisted against. For example, a student who loves cars can describe how Tesla has adopted and adapted to the way that cars can be fueled. Though electric-powered cars have nothing to do with the Renaissance, they can be connected at the conceptual level through adaptation. How Tesla has adapted its use of cars so that it can be powered by electricity. Do you remember how we collaborated on dot storming? I'd like to show you another collaborative tech tool. With Answer Garden, you can set a question like, my greatest takeaway about scaffolding is... The participants are given up to 40 characters to answer. Answer Garden will then produce a word cloud. Please complete this Answer Garden and I'll show you next week our collective word cloud. Even though it's the last week of the course, we can still apply what we've learned this week to our classes. It's time for our last and final metaphor of the course. What is your metaphor for emotional scaffolding? For me, it's a pavilion. We are like the pavilion. We don't want students to always stay under us all the time. We want them to take risks and engage and explore. But when they're in need of a shelter, we are there to provide it for them. Please go to Padlet and add your metaphor for what you think emotional scaffolding is. As always, I'm so excited to see your reflections and your metaphors. I encourage you to apply one of these strategies to your class and reflect on it using our Google Slide document. Remember to turn on the comment function on Google Slides so that your fellow classmates can comment on your work. We can learn a lot from our fellow classmates and be inspired by their work. Please look at 3 of your classmates' work and leave a positive comment. Next week, I'll create a video, but it won't be to share new ideas about scaffolding. The video will share your assignments, highlighting our coaching session, metaphors, and on Padlet. Remember, we still have one more coaching session to go. Post your questions on our Google Classroom page or DM me directly on Twitter. Though this course is over, I want to continue to support your desire for learning. One of the best ways of doing that is by joining Twitter. The National Staff Development Council said that an element of effective professional learning is engaging in a supportive community for a sustained period of time. Twitter provides that exact element. There are two ways to engage. 1. Follow people who post about working with ELs. There are a lot of them online. Look, you don't have to feel scared of lurking. I give you permission to lurk as much as you need. You don't have to tweet anything. You just have to be online to learn from other people. 2. Participate in a book club devoted just to teachers of ELs. It's called ELL Chat Book Club. Here's a video about it.
Welcome to ELL Chat Book Club, a dynamic online community for teachers who are committed to supporting English learners. Throughout the year, educators from around the world read books about teaching ELs. We gather virtually on Twitter to share, reflect, connect, grow our practice, and to become inspired. To join, the first step is to sign up for a Twitter account. Now, go to the search box in Twitter and search for @topple_ELD. Pinned to my profile page, you will see the book we're going to read, a reading schedule, and all other essential information. Purchase the book and read along. I will tweet weekly questions to guide your reading. Once you have read the assigned chapters, tweet your answers to the questions, share your favorite quotes, tweet pictures of your highlights, or even post fancy book snaps. Always include #ELLchat_BK Club in your tweets so other participants can see what you posted when they search the hashtag. ELL Chat Book Club is a slow chat, which means you can post whenever you want to. It is designed to be flexible and convenient for busy educators like yourself. If you get behind, it's okay. Whether you are tweeting along or watching from the sidelines, you always have a place in this family of teachers. See you on Twitter.
When you're in need of some great ideas and to be supported by a welcoming community and to not feel like you're working in isolation, jump on Twitter. I hope you can join us. I will never delete this Google Classroom, so the resources, videos, and assignments will remain there for you as a reference. Though I'm not authorized to provide continuing education credits, I can, however, produce a certificate of participation which can be taken to your principal or district office for credit approval for those who have completed optional assignments. It will include the hours of videos watched and the number of assignments completed. Please send me an email or a direct message on Twitter to notify me of your wish to have a certificate of participation. I would like to get your feedback on your experience with this course. Can you please take a few minutes to complete the anonymous survey? Future participants might be really interested in hearing about your experience. If you're willing, can you please record a Flipgrid video to share your experience with the course? I would like to use your testimony to share with teachers who are looking into the course. It would be a huge favor for me. Thank you. You know my love affair with analogies, so I like to end the course with this one. This course is not meant to be a map. I cannot define the destination for you or your students. Each of us has our own destination. We want to take our students. However, I hope that this course was like a compass for you. I hope that I have given you the skills to take your students beyond their expectations and their self-imposed limitations. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to be part of your journey. If you ever need me, I'm just a tweet away. Have a great week and see you in our coaching session.
I had a 9th grade English teacher named Sheila Spicer who changed my life with 3 words. She said, "You can write." Oh, well, listen, this woman changed my life, told me I could write. She said to me, "I'm going to put you in the honors class." She tried to get me in there. I had a conflict. She said, "Here's what I'm going to do." She said, you're going to sit in the corner for the entire year. Ignore everything I do on the blackboard. You're going to do the honors work instead. And what she was really saying was, you're going to thank me later. And 10 years later, when my first book came out, I went back to her classroom. I knocked on the door. I said, "My name is Brad Meltzer. I wrote this book and it's for you." And she starts crying. I'm like, "Why are you crying?" She said, "I was going to retire this year because I didn't think I was having an impact anymore." And I'm like, "Are you kidding? You have 30 students. We have 1 teacher. And sometimes you don't even realize your impact on other people." This woman changed my life, had no idea of her impact on my life. You have someone, I'm sure, who took first chance. You gave you your first chance. Everyone listening now has someone who took a chance on them, told them they were good at something for the first time. Everyone has somebody in their life like that. And when you're done listening here, go thank them. You won't believe what comes from it. Just go say thank you.
So I like to end the course in an unscripted way. So this is a picture of my family in the Philippines. This is maybe about this is me, and this is my sister, and this is my brother, and this is my mother, and we're in the refugee camp in the Philippines because we escaped from Vietnam. And I'm maybe like 4, almost 5 in this photo, and this was taken by the Lutheran community. They flew over to the Philippines to share with the Lutheran community what it's like in the refugee camp in Vietnam. And so my mom is right now selling Vietnamese noodle, we call that pho, to make ends meet. So I am standing in front of you right now, not as a teacher, not as an online course coordinator, facilitator, but I stand in front of you as an immigrant child. And my mom gave her life. Well, she didn't give her life, I'm sorry. She sacrificed everything to put us on a boat. And 9 out of 10 boats that left Vietnam didn't make it. They either capsized or were pulled back. And when people were dragged back to the mainland, they were tortured. So we were the lucky 1 out of 10 boats that survived. And I stand here on behalf of my mom, and I stand here on behalf of all the immigrant children in the world, who many of you will be teaching, to say thank you for giving us the one thing that my mom risked everything for: opportunities. Thank you for giving our kids opportunities to shine and to learn. Thank you.